We see a wheat field on the outskirts of Phandalin, near the capital of Mist, and it's about a decade ago. Long strands of wheat are blowing gently in the wind, and nearby a family of halflings are doing some farm work. Your newest and oldest friend, Jack, falls from the sky and is dead before he hits the ground. And from behind the wheat, we see a glowing gray apparition leave his body, and he takes a moment to collect himself, loses his composure for just a moment, but not enough to alert the nearby farm. He bends down, collects some blood from his fallen form, and then he drifts away. And it's a few months later now, and he's followed some leads to an auction run by a number of dark necromancers and warlocks and sorcerers who deal in unsavory artifacts. He's hoping to find one of the Idrilim here, maybe even Yorith's, but he's unsuccessful in that regard. What he does find is a lot with several pods that, when fed a person's genetic matter, can regrow them a body within a few months. He decides to make the purchase since his old ways of revivification aren't really accessible anymore. The bidding war is fierce, but he comes out ahead. He feels a chill wind through him as he leaves with his prize, and he's felt this a few times since his fall, that she's found him again. He stayed outside in his lich form for too long, too easily detectable, and now she knows his whereabouts. He finds a crypt to camp out in until the chill subsides, and soon, in his new body, she won't be able to find him anymore. He hopes. We see his lich form entering the chamber that you're all in right now, this dank cave. Only at this point in time it's inhabited by a small band of nasty goblins. He just destroys them, gets to work on setting up his chamber, warding it from magical detection, collecting his research on the relic's whereabouts, unloading the pod and beginning the reformation of his body. And for months while it forms, he does not leave this cave. He works on his map, endlessly triangulating, and he's lonely. He misses his friends horribly, but he knows that they wouldn't recognize him now. His only hope is to find Yorith, and with her help he can take back the ship that brought him here. It's been months now, and Jack is reconnoitering the foothills around Phandalin, searching endlessly for the location where Yorith ended up. And he's alive again, and following instructions that he doesn't remember leaving for himself because he can't remember that he's a lich. He's climbing a particularly treacherous, craggy incline, and he loses his grip, and he falls, and he's dashed on the rocks below, and his lich form sits up from the body and screams a curse. It would be more months of waiting now, more hiding, more time away from his family. And we see this cycle a few more times, waiting, reviving, obediently searching, dying, raging, hiding. But his lich form never gives up. His living form never fails to obey, even though he doesn't know who or what he's searching for. And then a breakthrough. A dwarf named Gundren is hiring a body man for his quest to Wave-Echo Cave, and it's an ancient dwarven vault that contains artifacts of immeasurable power, and that is exactly where Yorith would have hidden her Firestorm cloak. So using his coin, he leaves himself a new command. Find Wave-Echo Cave, find the Firestorm cloak. And the last thing that we see is Phandalin, already a perfect melted circle of black glass, still warm, and Jack's human body burned to ash as his lich spirit form rises up with some effort, up and out of the glass. And in the sky above we see a coruscating blue conduit tunnel, the teleportation circle that Ketis and Ivar used when they left Phandalin with the cloak. And Jack almost loses it. He was so close this time, close to the relic, close to his friends, close to finding Yorith. Why wasn't she with them? If they have the cloak, where was she? He couldn't do this alone anymore, and he knew it. He knew he couldn't do this without his friends, even if they don't remember him, even if she vilified him. It would take some convincing and a whole lot of waiting, but relying on these people, his family, was the only reason he was still here, half alive as he was. And he sees no reason to stop believing in them now. And Peter, the vision fades, your third eye closing to rest again, as this naked human man stands up out of the brackish green goo splattered across the dirt floor. Hang on, I had to find, there it is. And Jack, the man standing up out of the goo, says, I don't remember what I did last night, but I must have partied pretty hard to end up like this. Who are you guys? And also, can I have those pants that you're holding there, wood guy?
Sure. I'll hand them over.
So he says thanks, and he starts to kind of pull them on. He says, who are you guys?
Friends, actually. Waiting for you.
I don't remember any friends. I don't remember any of this. Do I know you guys? Where are we?
Well, actually, you told us to wait for you.
I feel like I'd remember that.
Well, it wasn't exactly.
Go ahead, G. Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying it wasn't exactly your body, but yeah, make it what?
He starts kind of patting at his pockets, and you know, just looking for like ID or something of that sort. You feel like, and he grabs something out and he pulls out what looks like a coin there. And you, sure enough, this is of course the coin you saw him speaking into earlier. And as he kind of pulls it up and lifts it up and he holds it in front of his face, the coin says loud enough for you guys to hear it. It says, "Your name is Jack. You're afraid of the dark. Your very favorite thing in the world is swimming in very cold water on a very hot day. You get ill when you drink milk or anything with milk in it. Your father, Gregor, died when you were too young to know him. Your mother, Marlena, had soft gray hair when you were born, and she was the most wonderful woman who ever lived. You remember them, but you've forgotten so much. And right now, in this moment, it is still saying this very loudly. It's almost echoing in the cave here. Right now, in this very moment, you feel a dull weight in your chest, and it's the weight of a love that defined and redeemed you, but you've forgotten who that weight belongs to. Jack, I'm you just moments ago, and I remember who that weight belongs to, and I can help you remember it too." And as you're kind of looking past this coin to his face, you see his face kind of, first with a look of confusion, and then with a deep resignation of acceptance. He says, "Okay." And then you hear the coin speaking to the three of you. The coin just kind of continues on. This was something he had obviously set up. By the way, do you guys understand how this coin works, what it is, and what it's doing?
It's just a recording device, isn't it?
Yeah, but it was something that Jack, when he was in his lich form, because he knew he would forget after these, repeated cycles of dying and coming and returning to his lich form, he knew what the situation would look like, so he set up this plan, basically. So he recorded these notes for you guys as well, if that makes sense, because he was planning on doing all of this all along, which is why he'd been following you. So the coin's speaking to you guys. The coin says, "Guys, this is my true form, and now that you know that, your brains are going to try to start to remember other things about me, and as much as you can, you need to try to resist that urge, because for nearly a year now, I've had to play a part that I'm uncomfortable with in order for you to not remember, in order to avoid raising someone's suspicion. But believe me when I say I've been watching out for you the whole time. On my desk is a map of the college headquarters showing you how to gain access to Elsbeth's vault. It was incredibly difficult to obtain that information. I can't step foot on the base in my lich form, so I had to temporarily possess one of the college's members in order to do some recon a few months back. It was unfortunate collateral damage, but it was necessary. Just take me with you, follow my map, don't raise any suspicions, and you'll find what you need to fill in the gaps in your story. And just keep me alive, because if I go lich form up there, I'm toast." And then it pipes up again and says, "Oh, and you'll need to disguise Ketis, obviously, and don't let anyone touch him or we'll be discovered." What do you guys do?
All right. Is there anything to cover me up? Any more clothes that Jack isn't wearing?
So you see Jack is kind of collecting his supplies. He's kind of still looks very confused, but maybe something in him is kind of sensing that he should trust his voice coming from this coin. So he's kind of beginning to gather his things and put himself together. He's gotten dressed. He sort of rolled up that map from the college and he's tucked it up under an arm. And he says to you guys, I mean, I don't want to rush y'all, but the coin said we should just, get the lead out. So, I mean, he kind of, gestures over to the box. He says, I mean, there's more clothes in there. I guess we're not quite the same. I guess you're a little bit shorter. The mannequin is not quite as tall as he is. But he says, I think those, they may look a little big on you, but they should fit.
Good enough. I'll look and see what looks good.
Now remember, the mannequin was wearing already a kind of decorative-looking elven chain, not anything fancy. I mean, it's a mannequin anyways. It doesn't exactly need clothing. It's more of a plan, I guess, of how you're going to try to disguise, if that makes sense. But
hey, you know what?
What's that?
If I guess it wouldn't matter. Well, no, because it might not be. I was going to say we could disassemble me and put me in somebody's backpack, but then I wouldn't be able to reassemble myself in case we got in trouble. So
you just got a Legos for somebody got to pop you back together.
Yeah, nobody would see me.
Change out the head, change out the arms. So as you're kind of discussing over this, he says like Jack kind of speaks up, not the coin, but live Jack. He's looking around. He's like I know I don't really know y'all, but I feel like I should, and I feel like I should trust you. So I'm gonna chase that feeling for now, and I'm ready when y'all are. And the coin kind of chimes in again. The coin says, "Take a minute to put together a game plan, and then when y'all are ready, just step outside and summon a lift back to your base using that bracer. Jack, usually I have you leave a bit of blood here in the tank just in case the worst happens, but that won't be necessary this time because this is our last chance. We'll need someone to visit Cetus and keep him calm while the others return to Elsbeth, but other than that, I guess just put a plan together and then we should get going." So what you guys need to do, and obviously Peter and Navarre need to be involved in that too, but what you guys need to do is you need a plan for how you're going to explain Ketis not being there. Like, did Ketis die? For what reason is Ketis not there? Why is this mannequin there instead? And you need some means of hiding human Jack.
I could always turn you into an animal.
I can use some type of an illusion spell.
Level slot.
Yeah, I mean, for this one, I want to make it clear too. Pretty much from here out, or at least certainly right now, because we're kind of coming up to the end here. I don't have solutions for you. It's going to be kind of up to you guys to figure out how you want to handle a certain situation. So basically, there is no right way to do it. It's going to be however you guys, decide to handle things.
Okay. And now, when it comes to getting me back and getting my body in, I mean, would that be meta gaming?
Yeah, that's
because
exactly.
That's definitely
meta.
So I mean, yeah.
Well, here's how I'd say it. You knew that those tanks were there, and Peter you knew the tanks. Peter did not go back there when your hand was being reattached, or at least he didn't offer blood. I don't remember if Peter went to that room or not. Do you remember?
Yeah, I didn't offer.
I think he was with
offer
us.
blood.
You definitely didn't offer blood, but do you remember if you saw the tanks or not?
Yeah, I saw the tanks in a vision.
Okay. Well, you saw it in his cave. I mean, specifically the one in the Fantasy Costco, in the back of Reginald's store.
Oh yeah.
So basically, you just saw the tanks again, from when Jack purchased his. So you saw that there, and you saw the purpose of that tank, and of course, you guys all just saw, Jack just kind of described to you how the basics of it worked. That he grew, a clone essentially, and that he keeps kind of resurrecting himself that way. So he's not just in a spirit form. But remembering specifically that those tanks existed in the back of Reginald's store and that he had blood, that would be meta a little bit because, you know what? Here, do this. Roll a. It's gonna have to be a really high DC. You're probably gonna. You need to beat an 18, but roll a Wisdom check on your regular sheet. Manikitas actually has the same Wisdoms actually, so roll it on Manikitas.
Okay.
Just a flat Wisdom check. You need to beat an 18. You fucker. God damn it.
What if it's something...
Huh?
What if it's something like I say, oh, well, if Jack can grow a body back, I wish I could too, and maybe Peter's remembers that vision that he had or something, I don't know, something like that.
Narratively, I think it fits fine, and even if Peter did tell you the vision he just kind of had as he was seeing the pod split open, basically Peter saw this pod split open and Jack's body fall out of it, and during that, it kind of triggered that extra vision where he was seeing Jack kind of die and regrow himself, etc. So if at some point, if Peter had described that for you or anything, that would have kind of, I would say, triggered the memory of Reginald having those tanks and or a similar tank at least, and having taken your blood. It doesn't necessarily mean that there's a body there, or he wouldn't necessarily know whether there is or not, but that let's say that the capability is there if the time were there. But as Jack told you in the end of the last session, he told you that it does take a while for them to regrow. So anyways, but as far as plan though, you guys will need some kind of a plan to explain why Ketis is gone. Like if he, did he die in the last, or lie and say that he died in Wonderland, or what? You need a plan for that and a plan for disguising Jack. And that could be, like Navarra said, polymorphing him into an animal or something of that sort, or some kind of an illusion like invisibility or something that would Peter Peter would need to maintain something of that kind.
Okay.
You can always turn him into Peter's cat.
Make him look like Toki.
Yeah.
Peter could have two cats.
Yeah.
Toki and Joki.
Is that like Kodo and Kodo, or the fuck their names were?
Something like that.
Well, we could make a Manitoki.
There we go.
Mannequin Toki, nice. So what's the plan?
I'm down with just tell him that he died. What do you think?
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So
And
that'll work fine. And if Ketis died, what's the explanation for that? What are you guys going to use to explain the mannequin? I mean, you can do it in the moment if you want, but if I put you on the spot and you guys are thinking for 10 minutes, it would kind of ruin the narrative a little bit. So this is your kind of moment to plan before you head back up to the college. And I will say this is the if let's just say that there would be, if this room was a video game, this room would have a chest with a bunch of healing potions in it and a save point. I know at least Ben and Sako get what that means. I don't know if Becky does. I'm not sure how many old RPGs Becky's played, but
A few.
Okay. So
We
you
gotta
guys,
prepare, honey.
this is the last boss.
Understand? Yeah, we're getting
you
ready
guys-
to go in.
Yeah, you guys
I
are going
say,
on to the last dungeon with the last boss.
What do you say our backstory is this? Ketis died, and part of our suffering and part of our punishment is that this mannequin has to follow us around for eternity.
Oh, that's good. I like that.
Punishment.
He's more of a burden.
Okay, who's
He's more of a
he's more
burden.
You gotta deal with this dumb wooden guy just following you around all the time.
Yeah.
Who's
Yeah, so
who's
that's-
enforcing this punishment? Where's this punishment coming from?
From Wonderland. It was part of the whole thing from Wonderland.
I aged 20 years. I lost a finger.
Oh,
And
this is
this
the
stupid
sacrifice.
mannequin. Yeah, the sacrifice. Yeah, this stupid mannequin is now following me for eternity or something.
Well, that's what you guys want to go with. It sounds a little bit janky, a little bit like somebody that's, let's say, somebody who has been in Wonderland before, which you do know you will be going to see soon. Is aware of that already and would already maybe be able to see through that. What's up, bud? Hang on, guys. Okay, dude. Hang on a sec. I'll be right back.
Should we say that like my soul is trapped in there, but not let him know that I'm animate? You know?
Well, you'd have to be animate. You have to be able to walk unless we're going to carry you
Yeah, I
everywhere.
guess so.
That would work for most people, but again, if you're technically dead, you no longer have the block, the
Okay.
Dallas cap. They'll freak out.
Oh yeah,
What's that?
true.
I missed. What was that? I'm back. What was the?
We're just
We're
trying to
just-
figure out
Yeah.
whether or not we're just going to say that he's the soul or the spirit embodied in there.
Akitas, you mean?
Yeah, that would be a little bit too red flaggy.
Yeah, because they'll know that I wouldn't be under the control of the Dallas cap. They
Yeah, Jack
like
warned you
that.
specifically. Not that I mean, if that's the one you want to go with, by all means. But Jack did
Yeah.
warn you to not tell them that that's to disguise him that was Ketis.
We can say it's Cam.
That's
Nobody
not a
knows
bad
Cam
idea.
died.
And Elsbeth
Maybe you say-
did know who Cam was, so that would be I'm just cut up now. Like that wasn't something I had thought of, but that would be a potentially good one that could make believable for Elspeth. Although she did know Cam, so when it doesn't speak like him, maybe unless Ketis is going to try to impersonate Cam.
Yeah, I could try. Hey guys, I'm gonna try to hit it with the bolt. Watch out. I'll just be Cam. Or I can talk like Kanye, because that's what it looked like, so.
Yeah, it was kind
The
of
greatest.
dumb,
I'll just constantly say that I'm the greatest, and then everybody will know it's me.
Yep.
So,
I'm gonna let you finish.
I'm not a
The
fish stick.
director hates
I'm
wood
not a good
people.
fish.
So while you guys are kind of discussing the plan here and everything, taking a few minutes to kind of figure out what you're going to do, Peter and Ketis, are still kind of chatting over it. Navarre is still involved, but Navarre, you kind of go silent for a second because there's something trying to creep its way into your mind. And it seems like what Jack had said must be true, that your memory is trying to knit itself back together, because from somewhere deep down you hear a voice, and it's a very, very familiar voice, and when you hear it your heart kind of swells up, and you don't know why, and again you don't know who it belongs to, you don't know where it's coming from, but it's close by, and you hear this voice, and it sounds like somebody's kind of whispering to you from deep down in a well, like a water well. And you have to really listen for it, which is why you're kind of sitting there quietly for a second. And the voice says, "Trust Jack, love Jack." And those are the only words that you can hear it repeating. Just trust Jack, love Jack. And then you get the sense that it's mumbling for a second, like it's frustrated, and it's trying to communicate something to you, a little bit more panicked. But as it's trying to talk to you, you hear the Dellen's cap static, and you hear it says, "Nye, it's me. It's bzz, trust Jack." And it statics out. And it's that same dissonance again where you feel that this voice is super special to you, and it's infuriating, but you can't remember who it belongs to, and you can't remember why. And you guys are still kind of continuing your plotting. So go on. Plan.
Just try to be Cam. You guys want to go with that or what?
All right, so we're definitely saying you died. Yeah.
Yeah.
Alright, so Ketis is dead, the mannequin is Cam. And then what are you guys going to do to hide Jack? Because he's a human now. He can't remember everything. He doesn't have his lich powers.
Navarre, can we make him a cat? Can we make him into Toki, and he'll just still be Toki?
Yeah, it just says that I can turn it into a beast.
What are you?
Or
What are you
turn
trying
others
to
into a beast. Animal shapes. It's a level 8.
Level 8. Oh, do you have a? You do have an 8th level slot. Shit. Burning the big guns. Are you gonna snap Toki, regular Toki, out of existence then, and obviously Navarre's been around Toki to know enough what he looks like.
Yeah, I think I'm gonna snap him out of existence. I was kind of contemplating whether putting a fake mustache on him and calling him Bizarro Toki, but that's not gonna happen.
It can't be a mustache. It'll have to be a soul patch. There'll be a tiny little soul patch on him. Alright, your magic turns others into beasts. Choose any number of willing creatures you can see within range. You transform each target into the form of a large or smaller beast with a challenge rating of 4 or lower. Cat is like a 0.25, I think, or something. On subsequent turns, you can use the action transform affected creatures into new forms. Transformation lasts for the duration or each target until it drops to 0 hit points. Different form for each target. Stats, blah, blah, blah. This looks like it would work fine. Target's gear melds into the new form, can activate, wield, or otherwise benefit from any of its equipment. It lasts for 24 hours in its concentration. So, if you get hit, that could drop, but it will work fine.
Okay.
To disguise him. So you're going to hide regular Toki then? Just snap him out, Peter?
Yeah, Toki's gone, and then we'll have Bizarro Toki here.
Okay. Alright, then I will throw that on. Go ahead and hit your spell slot off.
Got it.
Alright.
I assume at this point we've already had time to rest and everything, so we're all healed up, right?
Well, that's the thing. You really haven't, and that was you know what? Just narratively, because you're probably going to need it. I would say that you guys took, that the transition maybe for Jack took a little while, and you guys have relaxed for a little bit. I'd say it's probably only been maybe 4 hours, but I'll go ahead and give you guys the rest. Applied. Normally it takes longer than that. It's it needs to be a solid 6 hours uninterrupted of sleep, with 8 hours generally being the total. I'll go ahead and apply your long rest here, and then go. Becky, go ahead and mark off that spell slot again. That 8th level, because you would have done that, of course. You know what? Actually, hang on. I'll give you the choice then, Becky. You can, if you applied it, it would last for 16 hours, because it would apply through his sleep, meaning Jack would be in cat form. No, shit, you can't, because it would have been while Jack comes out, so never mind. It will still take your slot, because you would have had to cast it after he came out.
Yeah, that's fine.
Alright. But it did mean that you no longer are exhausted, which will be vital, so. Alright, but you did get the rest of your spell slots and everything back, too. Alright, so that you guys have kind of figured out your plan then, taken some time to kind of rest up before you go in for the confrontation here. As you guys are kind of getting ready to step outside then, is there anything else you need to do before?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I don't think so.
Okay. Sorry, so just as you guys are getting ready to step outside then, you hear the coin speak up again, Lich Jack. Speak up. It says, now listen, you got to trust me here. You've got to give over the relic if they ask for it. We don't want to raise suspicion. If we do this right, it won't matter who has them. But, and this is very important, you can't let the director see me with you up there, or she's going to figure it all out. Meaning, don't let Jack, I guess in this case the cat form of Jack, turn into regular Jack, or he'll be visible. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
All right. So you guys, go ahead, G.
Before, I was going to ask, does Manichaetus get the new stuff from my level up, or is that only the regular version? Because it's not on my sheet.
It isn't. Yeah.
Because if he doesn't get it, that's fine. I just didn't know.
No, he does. I just forgot to put them on there. Because that's anything knowledge-based you'd have. It's physical stuff that he wouldn't have. So, like your training spells, things like that, he'd have all of that. And in fact, actually, I don't know if you noticed this, but your stats on Manichaetus are your the strength, dex, and con are the ones that a mannequin has, but your intelligence, wisdom, and charisma are ones that Ketis has. I just copied those over. So, anyways, the did I have the right one? Yeah, I did. The sky. So you guys step outside. I lost like the descriptor for it, but basically, the sky above is dark and cloudy and perfectly still. There's no wind. You're not feeling anything else. You guys, all three of you, notice that for some reason it all looks a little bit dull colors don't look quite as vibrant and bright as normal. But you're all standing outside and ready to go. So unless there's anything else that you need to do, it's time to hit your bracers and head up to the college.
I think that's it.
Oh, I gotta put your concentration back on. Just as a reminder in case you get hit. There we go. Alright, so you guys, I get it doesn't really matter. So I guess Navarre, you probably tap yours, or Peter, because Ketis, did you put on Ketis's gear, or are you just carrying it on Manikitas? Because, I mean, that's not fair to say now, of course. I guess you probably would have thought of it during the planning phases, that if you're wearing all of Ketis's gear, it would look a little suspicious.
Yeah.
So you just have it all in your backpack or something?
Yeah, because I was obviously naked. That's why I needed to grab those clothes, so I wouldn't have put everything on.
Okay.
So I got, do I need to pull the brace? I'll pull the brace out of my backpack and put it on, and then I'll take it off as soon as we get up there.
You don't need to wear it, as long as somebody hits theirs. You don't have to hit yours, so that's fine. Yeah,
then I'll just leave it in the backpack.
Okay. All right. So as you guys are careening through, you press the button. The purple or blue circle snaps to the ground around you, lifts back up, and you guys are tunneling through space, through that blue kind of tunnel towards the moon, Indris. Peter, your third eye flares open again, and here we see the ethereal plane just a few hours ago. The scene, no pun intended, is very dead. There are no lights below the surface of this kind of endless, just dead black lake. There's no sounds, there's no movement. The water looks like a tar, and there's only this motionless storm overhead. You're seeing Crow's Thicket, of course, just a dense, foggy forest of bare branch trees, and sitting on this kind of solitary island of this black lake that's not usually, a lake. It's disquietingly still and silent, and for a long time you see nothing moving. And then from far away, you see a hand punch up out of this oil slick surface, sending oily ripples out from the surface and kind of just slowly rippling out from that. That's the only movement you're seeing. Ophelia has thrashed her way free of the water, fighting through Crow knows what to break free. She hoists herself up onto the island, cutting strands of thick slime away from herself with her scythe, which she retrieves from the ether as she takes her reaper form. Hands attached to long tenebrous arms materialize, and they fly in her direction, but she's too fast, too aware now, and they won't catch her off guard again. She clears a few of them with different swings of her scythe, dashes backwards behind a gnarled oak, finding some cover. It's dark here too, but it's always dark in Crow's Thicket. Ophelia has seen so much during her time as Lord Crow's charge, things that most people given 10 lifetimes would never even dream of. Arcane cults that worship dragons made of light, cities of vast machinery, towers of gilded iron, crystallized laboratories rescued by fumbling doofuses who don't know that they're dead. But this scene, this world made of ink black and frozen, she's never seen anything like that that could do this before. And if it's happening at other planes, she knows she has her work cut out for her today. She raises her scythe and cuts a familiar slice through the air, but no gateway to the living world opens up. She tries again and a third time, but to no avail. She hurriedly falls to one knee. She pulls out a fistful of black feathers from a pocket, and lays the 5 feathers out in a circle, attempting to commune with Lord Crow, seeking some comfort and guidance. But for the first time in nearly 500 years since she entered Crow's service, he doesn't answer. And Ophelia doesn't know what's happening, but she knows 2 things at least. She knows that she's trapped and she's alone. And the vision ends just as you're kind of snapped back to the base. And you guys are... Uh-oh. Hang on, I left that one. There it is. You guys are now back up on the college campus, where in the teleportation chamber. And just as you snap in, Rodalt is standing there and is wide-eyed and surprised, like shocked open as soon as you guys pop into the chamber there. He hasn't responded, he hasn't said anything. You just snap in. What are you guys doing?
Can I just quickly let them know the vision I saw?
Rodalt will hear you, unless you or I guess how are you doing that?
I just kind of lean over and whisper quietly, "Hey, this is what I saw when we went through." Just very quietly in the ear.
Okay. That you saw. I guess it would take a minute to describe all of it, so I guess how are you describing it?
Vague terms. I had a vision. It was Ophelia. She's trapped. She's alone. There's darkness in the ether. Okay.
And she's specifically at Crow's Thicket, which of course Ketis would know the most about, but Navarre is familiar with too, having helped Ketis a couple of times. I would say, we'll just call it a stealth check actually, just to see if he even hears you at all. On Peter. That's plenty. You rolled an 18, so with your 7 modifiers of 25. Yeah, so you kind of whisper that to them, and Rodolph looks like he's still so shocked that he hasn't noticed it. And just as you're kind of whispering that, he says, "You guys, you made it. We thought you were dead. What happened?"
I'm not going to be talking much. Remember, I'm Cam, so I'm not going to be saying much.
Yeah, so he just did die.
Poor Ketis.
You see his kind of surprised and kind of happy look just slowly melt off of his face, and you know the kind of dour look replacing it, one of just sadness and you know, regret that he was so happy to see you when you must be going through, you know, significant grief. He says, "Oh, I mean, we're," and he's kind of stumbling over his words. You know, I'm glad to see you guys back. I'm sorry to hear about Ketis. And as he's kind of he's standing, not really knowing how to respond or what to say. He's already, there's a light next to him that it looks like he's you know, pressed a button that somebody was coming in. And there's no other field agents anymore. So somebody was coming in, and people knew, you know, that you guys were out. You were the only ones that were, because there are no other field agents. They'd all been reassigned when Peter was assigned to your guys' team. So just around the corner, Carrie comes just barreling around the corner, and then looks at and just kind of rushes in and throws her arms around Ivar, gives you a big hug, and then immediately kind of not pushes, but kind of lets you go a little roughly, and then gives Keter a big hug, and then is kind of looking around back and forth. Where's Ketis?
He didn't make it.
And I guess similarly to how you saw Rose's face kind of melt, hers is much the same actually, and I would say even a little bit harsher, just because Ketis and Carrie were good friends, and she doesn't say anything for a minute. She just kind of reaches over and pats both Peter and Nivara both on your shoulders, and her head is still down, and you can see that she's starting to well up a little bit. Her eyes are starting to well up. She says, the director's gonna need to see you guys, and she kind of starts, you know, hands on your guys' shoulders, kind of starting to corral you towards the door. And as you guys are beginning you're going with her, I assume?
Yeah.
Okay. As you guys are kind of almost out the door, you see Drew coming down the hallway with a cart, and there are 2 guards, one on either side of him. And this is abnormal. Usually you guys go straight to her chambers, of course, but he's already there with a cart. So he as he sees you guys, he's you know, has a nice polite, you know, little happy smile, and he says "I'm Drew," and as you guys are approaching him, and you know, he stops right in front of you. What are you doing?
I guess we give it to him.
Carrie mentions from behind you. She says they want to handle the director was in a hurry. They want to handle the destruction as soon as possible. Something about all of these clouds above. You know, things aren't looking great. And you do, by the way, you look up and you can't see from this hallway. You can't see straight up, but the quad, the kind of arboretum is directly in front of you. You can see up through there. There's enough sky coming up from there. You guys are on the moon, but the clouds above are even above the moon, and it's just like a thick liquid looking. It looks like you guys are underwater, looking up at this kind of black liquid that's above you. And it's just not moving. It's perfectly still and everything, but it seems to have people panicked. In fact, actually, roll a perception on all 3 of you. All 3 of you notice, just because, I mean, you guys are used to this place. You've lived here for quite a while now, a couple of years in Peter's case. The lights are off and there aren't people around. Usually it's, even middle of the night, it's usually still relatively bustling. There's still people around, but the lights are dimmed the way that they are at night, and you don't see any other people, just the people that I've mentioned. Do you actually, with that perception though, Peter, you do notice behind Drew, a little ways behind and around a corner, you see about halfway up the wall, you see a small halfling face peeking around the corner looking at you. It's Ango, and he's staring at you guys. He's staring in your direction. And that's the only other person you see. What are you guys doing? Did you get you putting the scales on the cart for Drew?
I say, yeah, let's give him the scales. If possible, I'm just gonna slowly and gently look up at little guy up there and make eye contact with him, so he knows that we know he's there.
Okay. When you look up at him, he's looking to make sure that that Drew. He basically looks over, and you see that his kind of eyesight is aiming at Drew and the guards, and he brings a finger up to his lips, like a kind of a motion.
I'll bring my eyes back down again.
Okay. All right. So Navar, you set the scales down on the cart. Drew gives you a roll an insight on Navar, and I'd say on Ketis too, because Peter's looking at Ango. So for Ketis and Navar, roll an insight. Yeah, both of you. Looking at him, the smile is totally genuine. There's no deceit in his. You don't sense any deceit from him, from what you can see. He looks like he's perfect, very happy to see you guys. He hasn't asked about a missing Ketis, but the dour look of Carrie behind you, maybe that might give him some kind of question. But he doesn't seem to be affected by that. In all the time that you've been around him, he always seems a little bit simple, little like Hodorish. But yeah, he basically is a genuine smile, genuinely happy to see you guys. But you've set the scales on the cart, and he presses the runic symbol on the side, and the little purplish crackling cage kind of snaps up around it. And he kind of turns the cart around and begins heading back towards the director's chambers. Again, this is abnormal. Usually you take it there, but they were in a hurry, as Carrie described it. I would say I'll even still use the roll you already had, Peter, because it was actually it was 28, so it was a super high roll for your perception. As they pass, as they're kind of turning and going backwards, you see Ango duck back around the corner again, and then as soon as they've passed and their backs are to him, you see him step out, and he's making gestures with one hand. You don't necessarily recognize exactly what it is, but you see him making gestures. And then, in fact, actually, I would say roll an Arcana check real quick on Peter, because this is at a bit of a distance. He was casting Mage Hand, and he was casting it in the direction of Drew and the guards. And as soon as he looks to be done with that, he ducks back down that hallway and he's back from view. So you guys are now standing basically just outside of the Arboretum. The artifact has been returned. What are you guys doing?
Are we alone in that room right now?
Carrie is behind you. She is actually kind of still very solemn, like looking. She doesn't necessarily know what you guys are intending to do. Rodalt is still in the doorway behind you. So basically, Rodalt and Carrie are nearby. Otherwise, there's no one around.
I think we should maybe just turn back and look at them and say, hey, let's all maybe get some rest. We had a long day, and see if we can have them leave the room. I want to go back to Ango. I want to talk to him.
Ango ducked down the hallway, but that is the direction of where your library and everything are. So, I mean, you know where he's going. You can presume, basically, there isn't a lot else that's down that direction. It's basically the R&D department. I mean, it's a big library, but there isn't a lot of other places to go back that way.
Gotcha. All right, I'm turning to everybody and just saying, look, it's been a rough few days, and I need to just retire to the library for just a little bit. I need to gather my thoughts.
Carrie gives a just a really small smile, just an appreciative smile of what you've gone through, and says sure, and she kind of just pats your shoulder. Naivara, she kind of just doesn't really give you much choice. She just kind of pulls you in for a really big hug again, and she's twice your size, so there isn't a lot of fighting back, but just gives you a really big hug. And then she kind of just pats you on the shoulder too, and head still very much down. She looks very dour, and doesn't seem to. You know what I'd say? Just to see how well you guys are playing this off, I'd say roll a performance on Peter and Naivara to see how well you're playing off being sad that Kiedis is dead. Not everything has to be in the tower too, guys. I mean, those are good ones for that, but it's fine. So Peter, you rolled an 18, and I've already rolled a natural 20, so I think you guys are selling it just fine. So she kind of pats you guys on the shoulder, though, and kind of heads off towards to the other side of the Arboretum, presumably maybe towards where the bunks and everything are. Now, you guys have a couple of things you need to do here. According to what the coin told you, somebody needs to go to the... Depending on, you don't necessarily have to start this process yet, I guess is how I would say it, because you guys are here under... let's say normal terms. You're not necessarily like breaking into the place or anything like that. So because you're allowed to be here, you don't necessarily need to worry about people looking at you or anything weird. But somebody needs to go to Cetus to keep him distracted while... Now, let me go back to what Jack said. Hang on. Let me find it for you. He said, the coin told you, we will need someone to visit Cetus to keep him calm while the others return the relic to Elsbeth, is what he said. So that's one of the things you need to do. You'll need somebody to go to Cetus, and then, the other two, presumably, with Jack, so I guess 3, to visit the director. Now, they already have the artifact, because you guys gave it to Drew, so... maybe Jack didn't see that happening. He didn't foresee that, but regardless, that's what the coin told you. So what are you guys doing?
I guess I would probably be the best bet to go see Cetus.
Do remember too, though, that that's perfectly fine too. Whichever groups you want to go anywhere is perfectly fine. Do keep in mind though that Kiedis is not currently restricted by the static. So there's potentially something to gain there by that, but also that selling the mannequin to the director would be harder than selling that he just died and that Peter and Naivara are there. But I can adapt as needed for whoever's going where.
So I go with you. I'm your tag along, and then Peter. We'll go to the director. Well, you go see Cetus? Or what?
Would we be able to even get Manikitas up to see Cetus by himself?
You can see the elevator entrance, where I say elevator, but you know what I mean, the lift that goes up to Cetus. You can see it from here, and there's normally a guard on either side, and there's nobody there. This whole place is emptied out.
So you could always go up there by yourself and you could talk to Cetus since you don't have the thing.
Yeah, I guess so.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And you guys could talk to the director then?
Yeah.
And Jack can go cat form with you guys?
Toki.
Yep.
He's jokey. Yeah, jokey. Because he's Jack Toki, Jatoki, whatever works. Alright, so what's the plan?
Does that work for you guys?
Yeah, Manikitas goes out there. Navarro and I will go to the director. Do we have time to kind of go towards that library to check out what's going on?
There's no... Okay, I'll put it this way. There will be a time-sensitive part soon, but there is not at this moment. You guys, I mean, you know that in the case of Jack having told you that that we don't have days, we have hours. So you know that time is of the essence. But I mean, if you, by all means, if you want to stop by the library, that there's not any reason that you couldn't.
I say just really quick, we'll make a beeline for it just to see if we can find Ango, see what's going on.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. All 3 of you going?
Yeah, I'll tag along with them.
Okay. Hang on.
Oh, and then I don't know if Peter and I talked about it, but if we can go by Fantasy Costco too, if we have time.
Well, I mean, that's actually on the map. That's on the way. So.
Can we go by there?
That works because I think I need some arrows too.
Yeah, it's a pretty good time to stock up on the last of everything.
Yep. All right, so you guys actually, as that's on the way anyway. So as you're kind of walking past it, you notice that it is extra. It's been extra dark in here from those perception rolls you had earlier, and you couldn't figure out why, really. And then as you're kind of walking, towards the front of this fantasy Costco, you see why. You're kind of coming at an angle towards it. You realize why, and it's because the lights for the fantasy Costco are all off. And normally, even when it's nighttime, fantasy Costco is 24/7, and the lights are always on in there, so it illuminates part of the arboretum here, anyways, even when the rest of the lights are off, because it's so bright in there. And that's why it seems so much darker in this place, is because those lights are not on. You kind of, as you're approaching the door, you see the place looks completely out of order. The doors don't open when you cross. They don't look to be locked or anything, as far as you can tell. There's nothing blocking them or anything. But the inside through the windows looks a little bit like ransacked almost. And most importantly, as soon as you pass the front, the theme song doesn't play. You've heard this theme song so much that it's irritating to you guys, when you walk by or when people walk in. Because that song constantly plays like an annoying jingle. That, Fantasy Costco, where all your dreams come true, got a deal for you, blah blah blah. That song, that doesn't play when you guys walk by. So you're standing out front. The doors are closed. What are you doing?
Wait, when you go check
Slide
out
it
Reggie.
open.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you pull the doors open. They slide open just fine. They're not locked or anything. But as soon as you've opened the doors, you can hear some noise coming from near the back of the store. And it's a big warehouse, but it's near the back of the store warehouse.
Alright, if I look around, see anything else moving? Or see anything moving?
You don't. I mean, you hear the source of the noise, and it sounds like scurrying, like stuff being yanked off of shelves, that kind of noise.
Go check it out, guys.
Yeah, can I just pull out my light balls there and throw a few out there and yell back? Say hello. Anybody back there?
Sure. As soon as you do that and you yell that out, the scurrying stops, and you hear a voice that shouts out, "We're closed. I don't think we'll be opening again. Go just head on out, guys. Good luck."
Must be Freddy.
It sounds like Reginald's voice, yeah.
Yeah. Well, we gotta go check it out.
Say, what's going on there, Reginald?
All right, so I mean, you guys kind of come around the corner of the shelves and see him. Looks just terrified and panicked. His hair's all standing on end. He's got a bright purple dyed beard that he's obviously been pulling on, because it's usually braided neatly and it's all loose, and there's hair pulled out of the beard and out of the braids and everything. And he is frantically, he's resumed his scurrying. He's frantically pulling things off of shelves and throwing them in boxes and bags that he's got on this big metal cart, just filling things up basically. And you see up at the front of the store where you had to walk past this, but you saw just tons of boxes and bags all over the place. And you come around, he says, guys, I mean, yes, we're normally open, but I mean, in light of the apocalypse and all, I'm afraid I don't have much to sell you. Fantasy Costco, where all your dreams come true, got a deal for you. Da, da, da. Sorry, guys. And he sings the song badly, and he's kind of still paying you little attention, and kind of going back to his throwing things in bags.
Well, now.
Well then, all right.
Say, Reggie, we need your help. You saw those tanks in the back?
I mean, yeah. I mean, I haven't packed them up yet. Oh shit! And he looks up. He looks up, and let's see. Yeah. All right. So he looks up. I would say go ahead and roll a performance on Manikitas.
There it is.
He looks up and he goes, "Ketis? You did not sell that at all. Remember, you're a mannequin there. But the question, him putting two and two together of you asking about tanks in the back, knowing what he has in tanks in the back, and then your question and your voice, the way that you said it, he looks up, sees a mannequin, but like somehow knows that that's you."
Hey, then I go ahead and barge in. I'm like, you like that new spell? That was my ventriloquist spell. How do you like that? Is that pretty good? Is this going to be useful for the apocalypse, you think? What do you think?
For the apocalypse. Roll a deception on Peter. Let's see how that goes. And he'll have to roll an insight, so hang on. You have to beat a 9. Ooh, you got an 8. Haha! You rolled a 6 plus 2 is 8, and you got a 9 for his insight. He says, just hang on a sec, Peter. Ketis, why are you wooden? I don't understand.
It was a really hard day, so we're gonna.
Come on, is that a shitty joke? You trying for a pun?
We ran into some trouble in Wonderland, so.
He's standing there.
Saying.
He says, "Oh, guys, like, you have no idea what this means to me. I thought I would never be able to sell something ever again, and here it is that you need something, the most valuable thing that anybody could ever ask for. I mean, you must have so much money, right?"
Yeah, as much as you need. I know you had so much fun with doing my hand, so I'm sure you probably enjoy doing an entire body instead.
He says, "You have no idea. Like this is just a fortune of mercantile wits that I couldn't have expected, because like that's all he cares about, of course, is making deals. And you've now presented him a situation where you need something very valuable." So he says, "I mean, I do have the tanks, and I thankfully I haven't taken them down yet. I was kind of scared how I was going to smuggle, a body out of here. But now maybe we don't have to deal with that problem. Just please come on back." And he's kind of motioning you guys to the back of the fantasy Costco. You guys going with him?
Yeah.
Sure.
Yeah.
All right, so he takes you back there. He pulls some keys out of his pocket and opens a door. And this is the same room that Ketis' hand was reattached in. But he kind of opens up the back room of the fantasy Costco. And there are some more emptied out shelves back here. There's some freezers, like some storage freezers, that kind of thing. Just a lot of different storage shelves, that kind of stuff. And there's a desk with an accounting notebook on it. There's a drawer with different compartments for coinage, like a cash register kind of thing. That's emptied out. There's a safe that's been emptied out. But there's this long table, and sitting on this long table are a few items that haven't been taken out of here yet. Maybe they just weren't valuable enough. You see an old dinged up battle axe, or an old chipped out battle axe, a dinged up shield. You see a set of old battered leather armor with a nasty looking gouge out of the hip that looks like it was made by a huge cat, like maybe a lion. And that gouge is covered in long dried blood, but some of it has been scraped away. And there's some beakers and a centrifuge sitting on this table, and next to this table of old gear and lab equipment is a pod. And inside of it, sure enough, you can see through this green brackish fluid, you can see Ketis. The body's still, the eyes are closed, but it's Ketis for sure. And actually, Peter, specifically because you're seeing this, on seeing these pods, you have another quick flash in the center of your mind of that vision from earlier where you saw Jack at that secret auction where he was purchasing the necromantic simulacrum pod, and sitting right beside Jack in the audience, bidding on the various auction items, is Reginald, the same guy that you're standing with. And similarly, Ketis, on seeing your body in that tank, there's another memory for you, this one more recent but no less invasive and persistent. You hear Maureen's voice. Maureen was Oliver's mother, remember? And she says, "I saw all of existence all at once. I saw a dark storm, a living hunger collapsing in on it, devouring, unmaking everything. But I'm telling you this because I saw something else in there, something that I have to believe is hope. In the midst of this empty storm, I saw a brilliant light carried by 8 birds, flying tirelessly from the storm, shepherding the light away from the devouring emptiness. I saw 8 birds." And those are the ones that she reads off. And that just kind of, just reminded you of that. Seeing your body, you'll know why shortly, of course. But anyways, that's you're now standing in this room. Reginald is just kind of running his hands, like wringing his hands together, just in kind of a frantic glee, I guess you would say. But you guys are basically here, and sure enough, there is a Ketis body in that tank. What are you guys doing?
All right. Come to think of it, maybe we should come back if we can, because I still need to see Cetus first. And if I get back in my body, I'll have the block again.
Yeah. But we can still buy it and have him leave it there.
Okay.
So is
Get
that
it prepped up.
Is that out of character or is that in character?
I was saying that in character.
Okay. Then if that's the case, then Reginald says, I mean, look, I've got to go, but I mean, I can just leave this here for you. Like, I mean, we could still make a deal, right?
Yeah, I'll come back and get it and pay you now. I don't care.
Pay me now for a hamburger later?
That's right.
Is that even a thing anymore? I haven't seen that. What was that? That was like Arctic Circle or some other like shitty fast food restaurant that disappeared in like the 80s, wasn't it?
Wimpies.
Wimpies?
Wimpy
Okay.
burgers.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because it was from that character that bought my character.
Yeah, yeah. Alright, so what are you guys offering?
What does it think? What do you want for this?
The projector's flickering really bad, I'm not sure why. It says, well, I mean, I'm sure we can come to some sort of deal, but I mean, since you guys are the ones wanting to purchase, this isn't exactly a gold value kind of a thing here. What, what have you that might be of value to me?
I have a jar of bees that have traveled the void.
That's true.
The jar of bees is always the answer somehow.
And also there's a benefit of, me having my body back and helping to hopefully stop all this trouble. So you can help us there too. How about that?
Just think of all the things Ketis can buy with a body.
That's true.
He
Next
goes,
time I get my hand cut off, I'm gonna have to come back and have you sew it back on. So
he goes, I don't know. I don't plan on coming back. I don't think this place is going to exist in a few more hours. What do you got that that could be useful to me to die with for the end of the world?
I don't know. Do we have any booze on us so we can get wasted?
He probably wouldn't be averse to that. That might be something he would want.
I've got dust of disappearance. He can become invisible. Try to hide in the apocalypse.
There is an awful sound from above, something akin to thunder, but sounds wet somehow, like thunder if it was underwater, and just this loud booming sound that kind of shakes the whole lab, and it like shakes your feet from underneath you. You don't fall or anything. It's not that heavy, but just a cacophonous boom that there's just a little bit of dust that kind of sprinkles down from the ceiling. That kind of a boom, and he's panicked and starts looking left and right, and he says they're coming soon. So tell you what, leave what you think is fair in there, and if I ever make it back, I'll come and get it. Just do what you can. Thank you for all of your guys' patronage over the years. And he kind of puts his hands together and he bows. He says I gotta run. Just be safe out there. And he runs his way out of the door.
Thank you, Reggie.
But he has left. The door is open and unlocked, so presumably you can come back in and get to your body here.
All right, good.
Solves that.
So where are you guys going?
Lab?
Yeah. I'm gonna grab some arrows on the way out.
Okay. Yeah, go ahead and restock yours.
That's right.
He's left a ton of stuff. So basically the store is pretty much open, so if there's something you wanted to grab, you would need to be quick about it.
Cell phones and liquor.
Stuff that you can resell in the apocalypse. What are you guys doing?
Library?
Okay.
Okay. Let's see. It's been probably. I'm gonna let the dog in. She keeps crying at the door. The time that it's taken you over here is not super long, but it's been a few. Come on, doggy. Okay. No, just them. Go on, buddy. So it's been a little bit anyways. I'll say you guys kind of leave the Fantasy Costco. It's still really dark, and everywhere else you go out there's nobody out there in the Arboretum, and you make your way around the corner and head over to towards the library. It is completely quiet in here. Similarly, there's not any of the normal ambient lighting surrounding the place. There's one candle on a desk that's sitting there with a book open, and the book is completely empty. And that appears to be the only thing that you see anyways. But there's a candle next to it. Somebody was obviously reading here in the dark.
Can I check for a spell? Some arcana on the page?
Sure. Go ahead and roll an arcana check. Why is my projector flashing so much? Like it looks like it's a fucking strobe light all of a sudden. If you look over the page, it doesn't look to be enchanted of any sort. It looks like this was entirely mundane. In fact, it looks like pages were ripped out. It's not the page that it's flipped to is still just blank, but somebody just flipped it over, and there were pages that were ripped out.
Can I just look around the room and see if I can find Ango, or if Ango's been there?
Sure. I would say make an investigation check.
Really?
I mean, it's a natural one, so I can't give you much from it. I would say the book, because you were rolling an Arcana check to see if it was, magic, if it was blanked out by magic, but it's not. It was just on a blank page early in the book. The book itself isn't blank. It's just that it's a book specifically on the research of the Edralim. In fact, you've read this book numerous times yourself. But he's just on a blank page, and some pages were ripped out. But context clues based on the chair that was chosen is a chair that Ango often uses because it's a little bit easier for him to climb up into because he's just a little guy. So that's his chair, and it is a book that he would probably grab and read. So, I mean, just by context clues you have pieced together, it was probably him that was reading it. He doesn't appear to be in here, though.
Can I tell which pages were ripped out, or look at the previous pages or after pages to see kind of what chapter it was on?
Yeah, so a few of it, there's probably, just looking at it, you probably guess it's about 8 or 10 pages that were ripped out. The chapter is specifically on what they did, what their uses were.
All right, I'll take a moment to communicate that with the group.
Okay. What are you guys doing?
You guys want to split up now?
Yeah, I'll go up and CC this.
Okay. Since you guys are splitting up, we will need to... I guess we'll probably bounce back and forth a little bit for the meantime. So we'll go ahead and start with Kita setting up there. We got about an hour, so we may have to hand wave over some bits of it because Sako's got to go at 4 o'clock. So I mean, we'll make this make sense and everything, but we'll get to the end of this one because this kind of sets up the next one too, of course. But anyways, Ketis, you kind of head out there still in your mannequin body, leaving the library as soon as you guys make it back to the Arboretum because you two groups go your separate directions. Ketis, you're heading over towards the elevator for the heading up towards the Cetus chamber. You notice there's just nobody out there. It's completely empty. Like there's nobody in your way at all. You step into the elevator, you press the runic symbol, and it starts to go up. Nivara and Peter, you guys head off towards Peter and Nivara. You guys were both going to the director, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So you guys head off towards that hallway to go back towards the director's chambers, where you did see Drew. Had gone with the Statera scales. And we'll get back to Peter and Nivara in just a moment. Ketis, you're going up that elevator. It just keeps heading its long ways up. I didn't have that one ready. Hang on. There we go. But you make your way up and out of the chamber towards the... as soon as the doors open, basically you're back out in kind of open space, and with the nebula and everything in the distance. You slowly kind of make your way towards where the Delm's Cap are. The ones that you've been used to seeing forever. That you've come out here numerous times. And as you're approaching, as you start getting a little bit closer and closer, you start to hear you hear the Cetus's calls, of course, and then you hear harp music. You hear somebody playing the harp, and it's a slow song. It sounds like they've just maybe are less composing and more just kind of riffing with a harp. And as you are getting closer and closer, you see Sebastian is in front of Cetus's tank. He's got his back to you, but he's sitting there just plucking the music. What are you doing?
I'm sorry if I could interrupt for just 1 second. If possible, can I begin scrying on Ketis right now?
Sure.
So that way I kind of know where he's at, what's going on.
It's harder to do while you're walking, but I would say that in practice for having been divination anyways, that you can see at least a little bit of what's going on. It might be a little bit fuzzy only because as you have to turn and go around this hallway and that kind of stuff. You're not super far from the director's chambers anyways, but I would say that you can kind of keep an eye on what's going on up there. And of course, we'll be skipping back and forth, but it'll be kind of repeating the same window of time, if that makes sense. So Ketis might be like 2 minutes in since you guys left him now. You guys you haven't experienced that because I haven't read you. I haven't told you what that next 2 minutes is for you guys. But we'll be skipping back and forth a little bit. But yeah, you can keep an eye on at least to get a general idea of what's going on.
All right.
Okay, what are you doing, Ketis?
Might as well just walk up a little closer to the tank.
Okay. As you're approaching, it doesn't look like Sebastian has noticed you yet, but you do see Cetus's tendrils begin to flail around inside of the tank, and he says, Sebastian says to him, he says, "Oh, wow, bud. I mean, you're really liking this song, huh? I'll make sure to." And Cetus keeps kind of flailing around. He starts to make bubbling noises. It looks like Cetus is reacting to you, but Sebastian hasn't noticed that yet. And Seb says, "Oh, I'll feed you soon, buddy. Just need to transcribe this." And you're kind of, as you're approaching, he still hasn't seemed to have heard you or noticed that you're there. What are you doing?
Would he be able to see me if I went around the other side of the tank? Well, I guess he would. You'd see through.
You're still 20 feet
around.
back. If you get closer, he's going to notice that you're there.
Okay. Is there a way to walk around to the other side to where he wouldn't be able to see me, or can he see through the tank, or is the tank not wide enough?
The tank is pretty dark. Like, it's hard to even see Cetus inside of it, unless you know he's there. So, I mean, you probably could. I would say, a stealth check would give you that.
Try if I can to be
Okay.
quiet and move around the other side, the
Okay.
opposite side of the tank.
All right.
So,
Yeah, you rolled a 17 plus 2, so 19. You don't get the impression that he noticed you at all. You kind of are carefully skirting it, but you've moved away from it a little bit, so that just what little light is coming away from the tank is not illuminating you. And the surrounding ambient light of this place is just the stars and the nebula that are, because this place looks like it's floating in space. And you're kind of carefully making your way around to the back of the tank. And you're now, basically, you're diametrically opposed to him. You're on the opposite side of the tank, and the tank is between you and Sebastian. No one else appears to be up here. There's no guards, no nothing. What are you doing?
go up to the tank and put my hand on it, my wood hand.
Okay.
See if Cetus responds.
Cetus, as you were going around, was rotating in place, but Sebastian was kind of looking down at his harp and plucking away. He didn't really notice that Sebastian was, or that Cetus was rotating. Not that he has a face, anyways, but he did rotate towards you as you came over here. And when you put your hand up on the tank, it reaches out a tendril and kind of opens it up. It kind of splits into those five and pushes it against the side of the tank in front of you. And you are, again, this is something that not necessarily that he's showing you as much as you're kind of remembering something, because you're not being blocked by it right now, remembering something that that you experienced with him before, and you're in that, him or her, you don't really know if it's a male or a female. It's kind of hard to tell with jellyfish, but you're in that crystal cavern that Peter and Navarre described to you before, and there are half a dozen other Dellen's Cap just kind of flying around kind of gleefully in this big twinkling cave. And you can see everything now. There's no obfuscation, there's no static. You see yourself in your normal body wearing this gray uniform, and it's you. You're younger, but it's definitely you. And you're walking towards the Dellen's Cap, and you're speaking to it, and you have your arm kind of outstretched to this creature, like you're trying to shake its hand or make contact with it or something, like a first contact kind of a thing. And nearby there are a few other figures in gray uniforms in various sorts of shapes, and they all have these patches on the chest that say IPRE. In a circle. Oops, I almost changed the language on that. And you see you see yourself coming back to talk to the Dellen's Cap repeatedly. You come back over days to interact with these creatures, and then the vision blinks, and all of a sudden you see yourself running towards that same big silver airship. And there's a few of these gray uniformed figures on either side of you, running, some ahead, some behind you, that are running back to the ship, and the jellyfish is coming with you. He's running alongside. The jellyfish is floating alongside one of your companions that are in these gray uniforms. And a little while later, you remember seeing the same creature again, and this time it's inside of a room. It's inside of a tank, like this tank, but a bit smaller. And it knows that it's moving, so you assume that this is taking place somewhere inside of this big silver airship. And we see a few scenes of different days of you coming in to check on Cetus here. It doesn't necessarily have a name yet, but this creature that you know is Cetus. And in every scene, you're wearing the same gray outfit, and you're really sweet to it. It's a nice creature. You're really nice, and every time you come in to check on it, you try to figure out what it eats, trying to feed it and maybe entertain it in any way you can. It doesn't really seem to want food. It wants compositions, it wants poetry, and it wants information. And then you remember later on seeing Cetus kind of nursing this glowing sack of this viscid fluid inside of the tank that's hard. You can't see into it. That's at the bottom of its tank, and it's not on the silver airship anymore. It's in this same tank in this same room that you're seeing this. So that it has this egg, but it's here. It's where you're standing right now with your hand on the tank. And this egg hatches and a small baby Dellin's cap comes out. And it's adorable. It doesn't have as many tendrils as the parent here, but it does have like the same sort of floating galaxy of stars inside of its jelly cap. And it's just kind of floating and dancing around, and both of these creatures are really happy for a moment, and eventually you see a shot of the door, of your memory of this, of looking towards the door opening, and you see the director, Elsbeth, walk in. And the scene changes, and you see her carrying the baby jellyfish out in its own sort of like small container, and we see Cetus, the adult here, just singing and screaming in this terrible wailing sadness, and you kind of snap out of it, and your mind returning to the here and now, and you're just, standing here with your hand on the tank. What are you doing?
Ask. Well, actually, did it put its hand up on the tank yet? Is it communicating with me?
It put its hand up to the other side of the tank, yeah.
Okay, then I'll make sure I put my hand up there. And then, about the little vision that I just had, I'll ask it where its baby went. If the director took the baby.
It spins a bit, and it flashes once. You don't know what that means. You don't know what that means.
Okay.
You know what I would say? Make a flat intelligence roll. Let's call it It's not really fair to call it nature because this is kind of a, alien nature. But let's call it nature just for lack of a better choice.
Nature?
Yeah, make a nature roll.
Cool.
You intuit that probably means yes. The way that it was reacting, not necessarily the one flash, but the reacting, you guess that probably meant yes.
Okay. Then say if it knows if the baby is still alive or not.
As you're halfway through that sentence, trying to say that, the harp music stops. You hear the sounds of Sebastian stop, and then you hear kind of like a choking sound. And there's movement on the other side of the tank that you can't see. What are you doing?
Alright, I'm going to move my hand away, and then I'm going to move out a little bit from the tank, like quietly, and see if I can see better. Over towards where Sebastian was.
So you skirt just enough around to be able to see it. You see him sort of thrown backwards, and he thrown out of his seat that he was sitting on a chair. Thrown out of his seat, and he just collapses, and he's laying motionless on the floor. And you blink your eyes. I guess you don't really have eyes, but you're I don't know. You wipe the dust off of your mannequin face, and your vision kind of clears a bit, and you can see that he is surrounded by humanoid figures, and you can see them clear as day right now. These figures are of varying shapes and sizes. If you stand, 6.5 feet tall with these broad shoulders and long arms, like these big ape-like animal creatures. Some look vaguely robotic with boxy appendages and clamps for hands. Some of them are very tiny with jagged, long, horrible claws for hands. Some of them are just like they look like people wielding weapons that you can't quite identify. But all of these figures have one thing in common. They're all composed of this dark, tar-looking material, something akin to black tar, with flashes of color swirling around inside. And you recognize them. You recognize them with horror because you know that the hunger is here. The 8 of you managed to hide for a really long time, but it was all for nothing because the hunger has found you now, and this is the end of everything.
Yeah, well, that's bad news. All right, then I'm going to move back and just see if I can be quiet in the shadows.
Okay, we're gonna snap over to Navarre and Peter for a second. You can figure out what you want to do there. For Navarre and Peter, you guys... Did I turn that down too far? Oh shit, that is really quiet. I didn't realize that one was really quiet. Alright, so Navarre and Peter, you guys are making your way towards the main dome that contains the director's private quarters. And you're out on the quad now, and the college headquarters, and there's just nobody out here, like, at all. You guys have never seen it like this before. It's just empty. But with this quiet, kind of motionless storm overhead, now that you're out in the middle of the Arboretum, you can look up and see it. You guys have made your way down the hallways and towards the director's office. You guys, what are you doing? Are you just going straight in? What are you doing?
I'm going to cast the Scry and kind of begin my vision.
Okay. So you saw all of what I just described to Ketis there. You see his kind of mannequin form carefully skirt around the back of the tank there, put his hand up on the tank. You don't see the vision, of course. That just looks relatively still for a minute, and then you see from the angle, basically from the door, you don't see anything moving, anything else in the room. You just see Sebastian plucking his harp, and then you see him sit up straight as if something was jabbed through him that you don't see. It's invisible. And then something, it looks like something throws him across the room, like a ghost of some kind, because there's just nothing there. He's flung across the room and skids across the floor and then lays there motionless. And then you see Ketis Mannequin stepping around from the tank and looking towards Sebastian laying on the floor there. And then Ketis the mannequin kind of brings his hands up towards his face a little bit and starts to kind of step back like he's trying to get away from the light of the tank, but you didn't see any other motion, nothing moving.
All right, I'll fill Navarra in with that information. I'll just let her know that looks like Ketis is doing his thing, but something looks kind of off.
Okay. Navarra, do you react in that information at all, or what are you doing?
Just ask him if he thinks we need to go help Ketis, or should we just continue to go see the director?
From what I saw, there was nothing super dangerous right now, but if we need to, we might have to figure something out, so just be prepared.
Alright, then you guys step on in. You see the director. She's standing in front of the doorway into the side room. The room you guys, well, there's two rooms in here. Peter, you've been in her private office, which is on the left before. Navarro, you've never been in there, but that is the office that she normally comes through. And then there's a door on the right, and you guys have never gone through this door before. And on the right, where she's standing, it's what you believe to be the relic destruction chamber, where the Idrilim go. There's sort of this big dome-shaped room. And she's looking in, and Drew is standing there with her, with his two guards. And sort of standing kind of to the side and a little bit behind the director, you see Ango standing there. Ango, boy detective, who doesn't actually look at you guys as you walk into the room. He doesn't even move. His eyesight stays very fixed. He's just kind of looking into the chamber, very focused on there. He's not distracted by you guys coming in at all. He's just focused intently on the doorway. But the director does look over when she sees you walk in. And she starts to walk over towards you. She kind of stops. Her eyes are clearly bloodshot, like she's been crying. And she says, Navarra, Peter, Etch, I'm so sorry about Ketis. I knew there would be risks sending you guys into Wonderland, but I'm so sorry. If I had thought that you couldn't take it, I wouldn't have sent you. I'm so sorry. And she honestly sounds utterly heartbroken. In fact, you guys can roll an insight check, but I'll tell you for clearly that this is not, she's not lying to you. You guys don't get any sense at all that she's lying.
Thank you.
I'll just point to my finger and kind of wave my hand between the two of us and say the cost was too great on that mission.
Wait, you did what? Hang on, you did what? I missed the first part of that. Sorry.
I'm just gonna raise my hand, point to my missing finger, and then gesture towards the two of us like we're missing somebody. And be like, the cost was too great on that mission.
She kind of just dourly nods. And she's turning, like she's still standing facing you guys, but she kind of turns and is looking, facing a little bit towards that side door, out through the side door. And she says, "I know that's how it feels, but I can't express enough how important it was that you guys were successful in retrieving this. This means everything." And she kind of looks up a little bit, just gestures up slightly. She says, "We'll be able to fix this." And I would say you can have a very brief moment to react to something here. So you give me, I guess, your idea of how you're reacting to it fast enough. Make a flat dex check on... Well, shit, first, I guess, who is carrying the coin? Jack's coin. He gave it to one of you, the two of you, since you guys turned him into a cat, and he's just sitting with, sitting on Peter's shoulder. Who's carrying the coin?
Well, I would assume Peter would have it, so I don't get it mixed up with the coin that I have.
Okay. I was curious if you recognized that. They look very much the same. Yes. I was curious if you recognized that was a similar coin or not that Alice was using. All right. So if Peter has it, then Peter, make a flat dex check on Peter to see how fast you are at reacting to something here. Oh, way to pull out the luck finally. Oh shit, Sako, you need to roll your Paratus rolls for the roll. So go ahead and just make 3 flat. You'll keep your 20 for the reaction, but let's make 3 flat rolls for your portent. Not Paratus, but portent. Just grab a d20 and throw it in there 3 times. 16, 3, and 1. Well, I mean, you can give somebody some bad rolls, I guess. All right. So those out of the way, then you, Sako or Peter, you, just as she's kind of looking up and you know, kind of expressing how important it was that you guys retrieved the Statera scales, you start to hear speaking coming from your pocket, and you just a blink of an eye, just a flash, immediately recognize that that's Jack, the coin Jack, starting to talk, and you just throw your hand in your pocket and just, you know, muffle it basically, throw your hand around it, and it's silence. You've kind of muted it, but you can hear it. It's just not loud enough for anybody else to hear. And what it says to you is, once you've made it into the director's office, you're going to need to move past that big heavy door in there to move back to her private sanctum. And once you get back there, you'll be trespassing, I guess. So I guess it's kind of the point of no return. So you heard that, and
Gotcha.
Navarre's still standing next to you. The two of you are standing in here. The director's in kind of facing you. Still needs to obviously get back to the door on the right, the destruction chamber, and you guys need to go through the door on the left. So you need to be able to get into her private office without her noticing. So what are you guys doing?
Can I look at Jokey and maybe make a little quick nod gesture to go snooping around back there?
I would say that he probably could understand what it is, because I mean, he's in there. He's just cat form. So I think he would understand, but remember, he doesn't necessarily know what he's looking for. He's in his human form. He doesn't remember anything either. He is affected by the Dellen's cap the same way that you guys are. It's the coin. It's the Lich version. I know that's a little bit complicated. It's when he's in his Lich form, that's when he remembers everything, and that's what he recorded in the coin. So he doesn't necessarily know what he'd be looking for if he went in there. Doesn't mean that he wouldn't be able to figure it out, but he may not be able to, you know, do much for you in there. And from what the coin told you, you need to go into her office and then through the big door in there into a different chamber.
And she's waiting to go into the other side, right?
She is standing in front of you guys. You're all standing over near the door on the right, and she is kind of, her attention is very much on that chamber to the right, which Drew, 2 guards, her, and Ango are all looking through that door to the right, and you guys need to go through the door to the left, which goes into her private office, which Peter's been in her private office before. That's where her painting is.
Just sounding distraught. Would it be all right if I asked her, do you mind if I just have a few words in private with Ango, since things look a little bit grim right now? Do you mind if we just step in your office for a moment just to speak?
Roll. What's the skill I'm looking for? The one for trying to persuasion. Roll persuasion. I'm gonna have you make a second one in just a second. The DC was going to be low on that because she needed to be focused on that anyways, and she is kind of giving you guys a little of leeway, thinking that Ketis is dead. So she says, "Of course," and she kind of just nods, and she, for just the briefest moment, begins to reach an arm out to you, like she is going to kind of go for a hug, and then thinks better of it, puts her arm back, and moves over towards the door, and is now facing the door to look back through. And she's now, again, looking away from it. Now, you've got the director, Drew, and 2 guards are all in the doorway, like standing directly in front of the doorway, looking out through that. Ango is a little bit behind her, so you have some space where Ango is not, directly close to them, and then the door is open on the left. What are you doing? You said that to her. That didn't mean Ango was going to go with you. He's still very much focused on looking through the doorway. Which right now, because there's 4 people blocking it, he's kind of like, he's moved a little bit to look between 2 of the guards, between the guards' legs or something to be able to see through the doorway.
I think then I'll just kind of politely move towards the office that I said I was going to go into, and gesture towards Ango to come follow me.
Okay. Roll another persuasion. And Navarro, what are you doing at this point? You heading over to the office with Peter?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a good roll. You try to beckon him, and he, for just the briefest moment, looks towards you, and kind of smiles, and he puts up one finger, and kind of, one finger like, give me a minute, and then kind of is turning right back and focused on that. He's very intent on something that's happening in that room. But you guys have made your way over to that door, and are now in her private office, her private quarters next to her office there. There's the same office you were in before. It doesn't really change much. It's got a big desk in it. It has that big portrait hanging on the wall that she disenchanted to reveal that she was much younger before going into Wonderland. And then there's this big heavy door that leads to somewhere beyond that you guys have never seen open and you've never gone through it before. But that is the door that Jack was telling you via the coin. Lich Jack was telling you via the coin that's where you have to go through. But as soon as you go through that, you're trespassing.
What do you think, Navarre? Figure something out for the door, or what?
Yeah. At least go over and take a look at it.
Okay.
Yeah, just inspect the door.
Okay. Both of you guys roll an investigation. Or one of you can aid the other. Which would mean advantage for the person that's aided.
You want to give me a hand?
Yeah.
Alright, she's going to give me a hand with it.
Okay. Yeah, your intelligence is 20, so...
So, investigation?
Yep. 2 12s. But still, 22 is a good total. It looks like a giant solid door, that like a solid steel door, that is intended for heavy security. But looking at it, doesn't look like it's trapped. It doesn't look like there's anything untoward to it, and it doesn't. I would say it this way: you looking at it, there's no locking mechanism on it. It's intended for security, but you don't see anything locking, and you don't sense any arcane means of keeping it closed at the moment. I would say, for Peter, because you're kind of aware of how this thing might work, I would say roll an Arcana check on Peter as well. Oh, 24? Yeah, that's funny. You've been in this room before, and when you were in here before, this door was magically locked, and it is not currently. And based on context clues of identifying that the director is out there right now and has her attention very much focused on something else, maybe she forgot to relock this, or is just not holding it in concentration to keep this door locked currently.
I think we're at the point of no return. What do you think?
Yeah.
You guys going in?
Yeah, we're gonna slowly, quietly crack it open and slowly get in there.
Okay. You open the door. It opens up into a long, empty hallway. It's huge. It's about 10 feet wide, but maybe 100 or so feet long, and it kind of banks down slightly, like it's actually going into the moon a little bit, as opposed to just being up on the surface. And there's nothing in here except for the other end of this hallway. There's just another one of those giant, heavy vault doors. And as you open this door, the coin kicks on, and you hear... yeah, we're good. You hear Lich Jack via the coin. He says, Now you see 12 orbs on their pedestals in front of you. Here's how this puzzle works. Once an orb illuminates, you want to touch every 5th orb, moving counterclockwise unless that orb is on the opposite end of the one you just touched. Oh, and after the 3rd round, the emerald orb, you don't touch that one, you skip that one. And if it illuminates a sort of warmer hue than it was in the last round, then you have to start this process over and over again. You got to go in clockwise order to make sure that you... And he's just rattling on this, outlining this super complex puzzle trap that you're just not seeing. There's just nothing in this hallway. It's just blank. There's just empty. There's nothing in here at all like he's describing. What are you doing? G, we'll get back to you here in just a minute.
Okay.
I guess sneak down to the other door.
I would just keep walking since there's nothing around us, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So the two of you step into this hallway. Well, three of you, I guess, if you're counting Cat Jack. You step into this hallway, and as soon as you do, you sink into the floor like it's quicksand. Go ahead and make dex saves on both of you. Saves, so the right column. Peter, your feet only sink into just above the ankle. You're about halfway through your shin. Navarra, you kind of stumble forward a little bit into it, and your knees, like your hands and knees, basically, and your hands up to your elbows are almost into it too. It's your steps were heavy enough that like you both kind of sink in pretty far into this, and you're getting pulled under pretty quickly. You're not being pulled immediately, but you're kind of sinking into the floor here like it's quicksand. You don't see anything. It's just it feels like it's quicksand that you're sinking into. What are you guys doing?
Can I just cast a transmutation cantrip, Mold Earth?
Where is it? Cantrip?
Yeah.
I mean, if you don't have it as your cantrips don't change when you have spells. Like it's not like so your cantrips are still the same as they always have been. It's your spells.
So
it's your spells that you don't
having
or anything. Yeah, it doesn't work like that.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah. But you may have a spell that actually would do that. But as you guys are like kind of sinking into this and beginning to panic a little bit, you feel like you're getting sucked in towards the middle of this hallway almost, like away from the door. And there's these little scorpions that are beginning to crawl out from the walls, and there are no holes in the walls. They're beginning to crawl out from nothing, like crawling down the wall towards the two of you. And you hear there's skittering sounds coming from the ceiling above. What are you guys doing?
No, not that one.
If possible, to start chucking Mage Hand and squish the scorpions against the walls if they're within 30 feet of me.
Okay. Yeah, they are. They're all around and getting very close. You kind of use Mage Hand. Mage Hand can't do damage, but I would tell you anyways that when you throw it out, you keep feeling it smack the wall. It just feels like it's smacking the wall.
Can I use Animal Friendship?
Sure. Where is that at? Animal Friendship?
Level 1.
Level 1? Okay. Spell that you convince a beast that you mean it no harm. You have to reach into a pocket and you pull out just a tiny bit of jerky that you had left over. And you kind of, in this quicksand. Guys, not right now. You kind of reach into one pocket and pull this out, and then use your other hand to make the somatic gestures that are needed. And you try to communicate with these. There's nothing there. There's no animal nearby at all. You and Peter are the closest thing to the animals here. Peter, make it an intelligence check. Need to beat a 15. So much. Sako may realize that, but Peter does not yet. But I would say, Navarra, because you see these animals in your mind, you see them, but you somehow know they're not there. I'll let you do the same thing. So make an intelligence check on Navarra. You guys might be stuck here a while. The skittering on the ceiling, you hear it stop all of a sudden, and then a massive... Where did that come from? I felt like I hit a key on here. Anyways, a massive scorpion drops down from the ceiling. It's too big to even fit in this room. It's larger than 10 feet wide, but falls down from the ceiling and is still just in front of you guys, directly in front of you. It's about to snap its stinger at your heads. What are you guys doing?
I guess just trying to crawl backwards.
Make a Okay, make an athletics check.
For me, how far away is that scorpion, you said?
It's 5 feet in front of you, about to snap you with the tail.
Just really fast, since I was trying to squish the other scorpions against the wall. Mage hand, just try and punch it with a mage hand.
Okay. For that roll for Nivara, you are able to kind of yank yourself up out of this hallucinatory quicksand and pull yourself over to one side. But I mean, as soon as you stop that physical endeavor, you're being sucked back towards the same spot again. So I mean, you have moved yourself back. It would be hazardous terrain, so you'd be back 15 feet, and you're slowly being pulled back towards the same place again, towards the middle. As for the punch, you're using Mage Hand to try to punch him?
Yeah, I know it's not going to cause any damage. I'm just checking to see if it goes through them again.
It goes straight through it. There's nothing there.
Gotcha. Say, let's just push through. Do what we can.
Alright.
I would say you guys, since this is illusion anyways, you can each make on this round again, because it's another round by now. But make another intelligence check, both of you.
What a time to be a dummy.
Really? Navarra almost made it. So you guys are still just struggling with this because you innately know that there's nothing there, but your kind of primate brain still feels like it is, and you're still panicked and scared. So you're still kind of struggling with this, trying to get back and forth with it. We will... you know what? Okay, just for the sake, because we're running low on time, and we'll need to hand wave a small bit of this. You guys kind of break out of this enough to realize that it's not real, and kind of just trudge your way very slowly and carefully through the middle of this. The scorpion following you along the entire time, just snapping this intangible stinger at you guys. You don't feel anything at all. You're just having to like close your eyes and just grit your teeth and just kind of trudge your way very slowly to the end of this hallway. And once you get there, you are getting close through it. As soon as you're not all the way to the door, but getting close to it, basically, you look around, you see something kind of hidden behind a column at the end of this hallway, and you look up and see that there's an alarm bell on the wall, hanging on the wall, and there's this big hammer that is just slamming against that alarm bell. You seem to have tripped an alarm when you came into here with this kind of LSD trip that you guys been in, but there's no sound coming out of it because you see a dome, and Peter, you recognize this immediately, see a sphere, rather, of magical energy surrounding this alarm, and somebody's cast silence on this bell that's keeping it from from alerting everybody outside. And you see that, what do you guys, well, I guess, I mean, you would look around, right?
Yeah, see what's going on.
Alright, so you kind of snap, and you guys were struggling to ignore that this scorpion was right behind you. And you both kind of turn and look, and as soon as you look, because you've kind of snapped your mind out of it a little bit with seeing this bell, you look back and the hallway just looks normal. It looks the normal length and size and everything, but filling up a very small portion of it is Ango, the boy detective, and your very best friend, standing there with a hand outstretched, and he says, "Start talking, I need to know what you know." And we will go ahead and, just for the sake of keeping Ben from being too bored, we'll snap back over to Ben real quick. What are you doing?
Do I seem hidden well enough? Do they seem like they are searching the room towards me, or are they still just staying over towards Sebastian?
I would say make another stealth check for it.
Okay. And then one thing I'm going to do too is quietly, if I can, pull my shield out of my backpack.
Okay. Okay. They don't appear to have noticed you so far.
Okay. Then I am going to hold myself still in one position, like I'm a mannequin, and just stand there.
Okay. Looking over there, you do see. I would say, the other players would not notice this, of course, but specifically you, one, because you're still dead, and two, because your affinity for Crow and the spirits, you see something is floating very wispy. It doesn't have the tangibility that you saw when Jack died, for example. It does not look like a lich, but there is a wispy spirit of some kind above Sebastian's body.
Okay. Can I gesture at it quietly? Forward to me?
Sure. I would say that's not like a roll or anything, but yeah, you do kind of gesture at it. It is looking down, and it looks terribly sorrowful, and it keeps kind of bringing its hands up like it's trying to play an instrument that just isn't there.
Ask him if he knows what those things were that are over there on the other side of the room.
Well, he's right by them, so if you try to talk to him at all, it's going to give you your location away.
Okay. I meant like, well, would I have to actually speak to have him hear me?
Oh, you mean like try to think to it?
Yeah.
It doesn't respond.
Okay. Then I'll just wait in my mannequin stance again and keep an eye on those guys for a minute.
Okay.
See what they do.
Whoops. That was not 2. Yours was a... Alright. You stay standing still there, and you see there's half a dozen of them in here. There's 6 that are in this room that are milling about. They look like shadows, basically, but solid. Like they have a physical form, as far as you can see them. And they're kind of milling about in the room, and then over time, 2 of them leave. You're here for a good solid minute or so. 2 of them leave. One of them goes over and sits down next to Sebastian's body that's laying on the ground there, and they don't seem to be paying any attention to the Dellen's cap at all. But as you're standing there for a while, the other 3, because basically 2 left, 1 is sitting by Sebastian, the other 3 are coming over and starting to look around this kind of floating space chamber, and they do come over by you, and they're nearby. I would say roll another stealth check. I'll tell you what, I'll let you choose either stealth or performance.
Okay.
Okay. You rolled a 6, so not real good.
Damn.
While you're standing there, you don't have the urge to sneeze. What would a mannequin have that would give it away? Something you jitter or something as one of them walks by, maybe a slight breeze or something, and you jitter, and they immediately see that you're mobile, that you're moving, and they turn, and one of them is a very small one with what look like claws, looks like maybe like a badger in shape, there's this ear-piercing screech that comes from it, and they begin to charge towards you. They're only 5 feet away each, coming from 3 directions. What are you doing?
All right, and just take a step back if I can, and hopefully they can't surround me, and hold my shield up, I guess.
Okay. Go ahead and we'll shit. We don't have time. Damn it. How do you mind if we hand wave past this so that we can get through the end of this?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So not to ruin your fun for combat or anything. We only have about 20 minutes left, and I don't want to cut into
not an important fight anyway. I'm sure.
Well, all right, here's what we'll do then. Narratively, you wouldn't be able to kill them anyways. These things keep reappearing, so even if you cut one down, it just reforms itself, comes right back. So narratively, these things all snap around you. The screams of the one alert others, and they just come pouring in through the door until there's just a flood of these shadows. So, and they seem to be able to move into each other as well. Like they're not physical, but you feel physical. And as they come pouring in through this, just this deluge of these shadows come pouring in through the door at this kind of storm coming towards you like a wave, and they just kind of overtake you completely and are just tearing the mannequin apart. And we'll come back to you in just a moment, but simple answer is that your eyes snap open inside of the brackish goo inside the pod in Fantasy Costco. And you're back in your physical body. You also, right there, by the way, we were running low on time, but you, where Peter and Navarro both got new special abilities, you can cast Misty Step at will. You've learned to be able to move your spirit around easily, so you can basically cast Misty Step anytime you choose to, once per round.
Oh, okay. Cool. What did they get? I didn't. Did I miss something?
Peter has an advanced version of his third eye where he can scry anytime he wants to.
Oh, I heard you saying that.
Yeah. And then the other part of that is he gets kind of enhanced versions of visions and things like that. It's an advanced version of his divination ability that he already had. And yours, actually, you were going to get Misty Step in one of the other patrons, so it's basically just a different warlock ability that you picked up. And Ivara got the one-eyed thing, so her arrows, she can shoot twice per round even when she normally can't. Things like that. A bunch of other cool things from her choice.
Nice.
All right. So we will come back to yours in just a second, G. But basically, yeah, we can go through those real quick. So basically, your eyes snap open. You're inside this brackish green goo that is just stinging the shit out of your eyes. You remember everything that you knew in your physical body, but not the visions that you had in the mannequin form. You don't remember those, so you don't remember the silver airship or the purple cave. Just something is blocking those again. Most importantly, though, you don't remember the hunger. So you take in your physical form, which you'll have back now. You take 2 damage. You can go back to using your regular character sheet now. Which is a fully healed body. You don't have the scar on your hand where your hand was reattached, but you do have your physical body back.
Okay.
Your things, though, are still in the other room with Cetus, because you left them on the mannequin. Yeah. You have your spell slots back, too.
Now, I don't know if I was mistaken or not, but it looked like Manikitas had 130 hit points, and Kitas only has 125. Is that supposed to be that way?
He had a different
Unless
total.
I was mistaken.
Yeah, he had a different total.
Okay.
No, his wasn't your total. He just had a mannequin total.
Okay.
You have your
It's the varnish. The varnish added.
Made it tough.
They gave him 1 extra armor class point, too. Is that good? Where's that? Yep, all good. All right, so you are back in your physical body, but you don't remember the hunger. And so as you are in the middle of this tank, something stabs through the outside of it, and you take 2 damage as it stabs into your shoulder. Something sharp and invisible. You don't see it at all. Cuts a big gash in the outside of the tank and then pierces through your shoulder. And the tank is ruptured. You go pouring out of it head first onto the floor. And something around you is stabbing at you. They're small. They're only small cuts, more annoying, but certainly still hurt. That's another 2 when you fall, so a total of 4 damage. As you fall in, of these things stabbing at you, as they just keep kind of poking at you with these small somethings, but you don't see anything at all. What are you doing?
Get up and try to move away if I can from the tank, because I'm assuming that's where the little guys are.
Okay. You are naked and you don't have any gear. So you're just running. Where are you running to?
I was just moving away from the tank a little bit, kind of look around, and then as long as things are still coming after me, I'm not sure. But then, if they're not, then I'll look around and try to find some clothes and maybe like a sword and stuff.
Okay. You are in fancy Costco.
Yeah, that's true. So I'll grab some gear.
Okay, that's fair. That's good. I didn't even think of that, Becky. That's good.
To get me through until I can get back to my body.
You did have. So did you recognize the shitty broken up leather that was on there?
That was one where that patchwork not manticore, whatever it was, clawed my leg.
Yep.
When I was fighting that thing.
Yep, right into your hip.
That was right back at the beginning, huh?
That was like the 2nd or 3rd session, yeah.
Yeah.
That was your gear from back then. You had to have it repaired. All right.
Because I was going to say I either repaired it or I sold it to him and bought a new one and he kept it.
That's exactly what it was, yeah. And there was blood on it, so he was using it. So, anyways, we'll hand wave that portion of it. Basically, you grab your gear and you grab some gear, anyways, and you run for the director's office. You can get Ruin just by summoning it, so we'll just say that you kind of just grab some basic things and you summon Ruin back to your hand. Okay?
Okay.
Alright, then we... Okay. We're getting to the... towards the end here, just about over. For the session anyway, so we'll be okay on time, Sako. Are you like a hard 4 o'clock, or is it like 4 or 5?
If a couple minutes go over, it's no big deal.
All right, cool. I think we'll still be fine. I just wanted to check just in case. All right, so you guys are in there. All right. So Ango asked, what do you need, or what are you guys doing? What do you know?
Guess just tell him everything.
You sure do, man?
Yeah, we got to give them the abridged version of what we know for now.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think let's keep jokey, kind of close to our chest right now, though.
All right. Roll a deception on that. You will find it very hard to lie to him. He has a very high insight, so you got a 19. He didn't beat it. I would say that he doesn't ask about Toki directly, only because he doesn't really have any reason to be suspicious of that. But he does say, "What happened to Ketis? What happened to Ketis, really?"
I say we fess up on this. What do you think, Navarro?
He's stuck in a mannequin.
I'll come see you guys in a minute anyway, so...
Yeah, just we'll tell him that we'll just tell him that last quest was a little bit rough, and Ketis was transferred to a mannequin.
All right. So you guys fessed up then in general for most things, anyways. Maybe not Jack, but he says. So just hand waving past that bit of it there. He says, "Okay, guys, thank you. I feel like you've been kind of keeping me at arm's length for a while, but I promise you, I'm good at this. Let me help. I mean, I love the college. I love the director. She's given me an enormous opportunity here. She gave me a home, but I don't think she's doing anything wrong. But those artifacts that Drew takes to the Eidrilling disposal chamber, they're not the same ones that come out." And he reaches into a pocket and he throws out something, and you see a small piece of chalk kind of roll across the floor towards your feet. He says, She just did it. She just destroyed the Statera scales. I made a mark discreetly on it before they took it in, but it wasn't on there when it came out, so I don't know what's going on, but it's obviously you don't have to be the world's greatest detective to know that there's a bait and switch going on, but I feel like we're not getting the complete truth of what's going on, so if you say that you can find it, let me help you get there.
Okay.
I'm alright with that. Yeah.
And Peter, the chalk that you saw was what when he was making the gestures, the mage hand, he was marking the Statera scales. When you saw him do that earlier.
Yeah, essentially doing the quick tick.
Yeah. So you're now in the director's private quarters. You guys moved through the end of the hallway there through that door with Ango and Jack. And the similarities between this room and Jack's cavern are kind of striking. There's a desk in this room, although this one's obviously much more orderly than Jack's because Elsbeth is a very neat person. Towards the back of this desk are two even tall stacks of journals, and in front of those are two fresh, completely open journals with quills and two inkwells sitting like right next to each other. And you see on this desk a semi-spherical object. It's called a dodecahedron. It's a 20-sided shape, hovering and spinning above this disc, just kind of weightlessly floating above it. And you feel this powerful force that, and actually I meant to remind specifically Navarro of this earlier, but it never quite came up, but Lich Jack mentioned that there was some sort of force keeping him away from the college headquarters, and you can, both of you, but Navarro specifically can sense it a little bit stronger here. You know that it's this thing, as it's a holy symbol that is projecting out this field. And it's just this big circle of metal, kind of like a chakram almost, and inside of that design, there's this big tree with 100 branches that reach out towards the end of the circle, and that symbol is actually both of you guys make a religion check. Okay, yeah, you both recognize it then. It's a non-denominational symbol of the human gods, the Ascended. It kind of represents like the whole of human religion. It's like for us it would look kind of like a coexist bumper sticker, but it's called balance. That symbol is called balance. The tree grows out in all directions and so on, and it's a very powerful symbol that's floating here, and it's projecting this field. You can feel like a lot of just holy energy coming off of it. And this room is a map of the world. That looks just like Jack's map that Elsbeth has been using to track the relics across the globe. Her map, like the desk, is much neater than Jack's. And in the corner of this room is a small tank. And as soon as you notice this, as you guys are looking around, this is what Peter saw and sensed that in the distance there was this latent energy coming from. Do you remember that?
Yep.
This is what it was coming from. It was this tank in this corner. And there's this light shining from within it that you can't quite see. And actually, when you look at it, your mind feels weird, and there's something in there that's blocking you from being able to recognize that there's something in there, or what it is. And that's this familiar, but even making the connection is like sort of beyond you at this point. And it's kind of weird to look at this, like there's a queasy feeling in your stomach. And there's something in there that you know that's there, but you can't quite see it, and you can't quite piece together what it would be. But above this tank is a bell, which is also what you saw, Peter, in one of your roll the bones visions. And as you walk into this room, the coin clicks on in your pocket, Peter, and you hear Lich Jack say, Okay, now you should have had enough time by now to get in here and drink. So you should be remembering now, but it may take you a while. The short version, though, we're all bzz, and bzz was one of us, but bzz, now we can't reach bzz. We should be able to bzz, 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 and it just keeps staticking out. And as he's talking, you just hear static. It just keeps staticking out every other word like that. But every time you do, lights from inside this tank are flashing and shining as they do. And that alarm bell above it is making a constant chime. Every time that goes off, there's a loud, obnoxious beep going off from the alarm. And the coin keeps going. And the coin says, now just grab some extra bzz for bzz, and it kind of keeps going off and buzzing out. What are you guys doing?
Safe to assume this is the thing that's blocking us. Is there a way that we can disable this or shut this off, or can I sense something?
So what the coin told you to do was that you need a drink. The first part of that, before you started buzzing out, you should have had enough time by now to get in there and drink. So you should be remembering now, but it may take you a while, and that's when he started to buzz out. What you're seeing here, and I would give you just in context clues that you would have figured this out too, of course, is that you're seeing the baby Dellen's cap in here, in that tank.
Yeah.
And that has a second layer, let's say, of removing your memories, and that's what's being blocked out.
Ah, gross. We have to drink Dellen's cap water?
Again, you did it before, remember? This is the second time.
Oh, was that what that was that we drank?
Yes, you didn't remember that?
No.
That's what you drank. I mean, that was only a year ago, so I don't know how you would have forgotten that, but yeah, that's what that was. Sako remembers probably a little better because this was only like back in June or something, March or June or something when he started.
Yeah, I guess let's do some shots, minus the worm.
Yeah, maybe don't drink the tendrils. That's funny. Oh, gross. Was that the Dellen's cap water we drank? That's funny. I remember there was a spigot on the side, and he pulled the spigot from the tank. It was this thick blue viscous liquid. It's the same stuff you went swimming in, remember?
Yeah, but I didn't drink it.
All right, so you guys each kind of pull these up and drink some, and you see that you can, as soon as you drink it, you can look down and see that there's this baby Dellen's cap in there. And it's kind of holding up these little tendrils up to the glass, and it's just a small tank. And you guys both feel like as soon as you drink this, you feel like when you've got a cold coming on, like you feel this cold, it's going to fuck you up, like a really bad sickness, like a cold or a flu or something, coming at your brains that is going to make your guts run cold. And Lich Jack from the coin says, guys, don't try to remember too fast, okay? It'll take you out, and just please do something about that spinning thing before the guards come. And you guys hear feet marching towards you down the hallway as people are responding to the sound of that alarm bell that was going off. What are you doing?
Well, I should probably try to take care of that.
You hear
the spinning thing.
You hear the coin, yeah, the spinning thing, yeah. But you hear the coin say again, guys, don't put up a fight. Things are in motion now, and we just got to go with the flow. But you're going to start to remember soon. But just take it slow, please. I'm begging you. You just got to take it slow. We just have to convince her. What are you guys doing?
Is there a way we could pull the door shut and secure the door?
It is a big, heavy door. I mean, you probably could. It doesn't have any kind of a lock on it, though, remember? It's being locked magically. Or had been. But the coin did tell you not to resist. Doesn't mean you can't. Just do whatever you want.
So the coin also told us to save some of that water for somebody, right?
It said, just grab some extra bzz for bzz.
Yeah, so I'm gonna empty out my water skin and put some in there.
Okay. Peter, what are you doing?
Can I take my hand and scoop a little bit into Jokey's mouth?
Okay, I was curious if you guys were going to remember that, so I appreciate that you did, actually, because I had two totally separate options here for whether you remembered to do that or not. He's still staying cat form, right?
Yes, for now.
Let's lap up a little bit in a little saucer.
Let's see, you know what? I would say this is going to be really hard, actually, because your brain is being assaulted by all these memories. It's going to be very hard for you to retain concentration on that. keeping animal shapes up. So I would say for Nivara, go ahead and make a roll, but you need to beat a 19. You need to make a concentration check. Or, I'm sorry, well, it's a constitution check, but this specifically is for concentration. I'd say even a 20. You need to beat a 20. Not a natural 20, but beat a 20.
Oh boy.
Oh,
no.
If I hadn't changed that, you would have been fine. But with that, you take that sip of disgusting jellyfish water, and it's a small tank too. That thing's been peeing in there a while. But you know, as you take that sip, though, that the just deluge of memories that are swarming into your brain, we're going to get to that in just a minute here, are just so violent that the concentration you had on holding this shape for Jack dissipates. And Peter, I would say even make a strength check on Peter to see if you are collapsed, because you just have a dude just appear on your shoulder.
A strength save?
Yeah, strength save, yeah. That'll work. Yeah, you kind of shrug him off, but I mean, it's a big twist on your shoulder out of nowhere that you weren't expecting, but basically you kind of shrug him off, and this dude just collapses and lands on the floor. Was kind of on all fours, but now just kind of lands on all four, and splatters out to the ground as the guards come running around the corner to arrest you guys, and, well, to take you guys at least to the director. We'll go ahead and hand wave past that next portion just to make it quicker, but let me do this.
So did Jokey, was he able to drink that water?
Yeah, you gave it to him too, so he's similarly jacked up right now.
We forgot to mess with the spinning thing.
Alright, again, hand wave. I'm just going to hand wave past that portion of it just because... Where's the one I needed? There it is. That'll work. Just for sake of time, because we're getting close to it, but we're basically at the end here, so... Alright, Nivara, Peter, you are all in... And Jack, you guys are all in front of the director. Ango and Jack there with you. And each of you has a couple of guards standing nearby. Drew is here, standing up on the dais with the director. You're in that chamber. You're in that chamber that they were using... that they were looking through and staring in on. Drew is standing up there with the director. You all sort of kind of brought into this room. Jack broke off and just sprinted towards the director aggressively. As his memories are flooding back in, you'll see why in a minute. But Drew actually kind of stepped in the way and just tussled for a second and gave him almost a hug, like just tried to slow him down and just hug him. Drew is hugging Jack. And then Jack just kind of pulls away, and his head is down, and he looks just completely despondent, just incredibly sad and angry, and just like slumped over, just staring at the floor. And he's kind of placed with the rest of you. You're all standing kind of in front of her. So the four of you are Nivara, Peter, Jack, Ango, are standing now sort of in the line there in front of the dais, with director and Drew on the counter there. And she's surrounded by this somewhat opaque, but you can still see through it, but this kind of opaque barrier around her. She's kneeled down in front of the statera scales, leaning on her white oak staff, and you actually see a little white star is drawn on it with chalk, just like a tiny little chalk star. And she's kneeling over with her staff, and she's kind of channeling some sort of energy from the scales into the staff, which of course was the Eaterling that she made when the seven of you first came to this world. She made the statera scales. That's something you recognize right now, and as each of you realize that you had just had that thought, you feel like your brains just got struck by lightning, and she looks at you as you kind of each grab your heads and are kind of panicked for a second. Hang on. Excuse kids. She looks at you all, kind of grab your heads, and she says, "Oh no, oh, Etch, did you inoculate yourselves?" Do you answer?
Yes.
I'm just gonna stare at her at this point.
Bitch.
Bitch. She says it's gonna be too much. You're gonna remember too much. It's too specific. You'll be killed. Why did you do that?
Because we were told to.
Just following orders.
I'm
Jack
just gonna keep staring at her, but I'll raise my left missing finger at her.
Jack, standing next to you, doesn't appear to be having as difficult of a time because, presumably because every time he dies and turns into a lich, he kind of remembers all of this again anyways, so this process isn't quite as painful to him. So he's just standing there next to you, as you're sort of grabbing onto your heads, and he's looking up on the dais. And Peter, you're standing next to Jack in this line, and you hear him whispering an invocation, and you can immediately sense the arcane rill, and you can tell that he's casting the spell Command. And you hear him mutter a single word, and he says, "Drink." And Elsbeth turns to him, like, eyes wide, and she says, "What did you say?" And Jack says, he says, "Ellie, we've got to help them remember it's over. You owe them that. You already have the relics. Just help them remember. Their minds are going to shatter if you don't." And she sighs deeply. She kind of head bowed in silence for a moment, and then she nods. She says, "Okay, listen, guys. And Peter, you roll a perception on Peter." Okay.
Nice.
You'll get that in a second. So Elsbeth, the director, she says, "Okay, look, listen, guys. Let's try to follow along as I explain it. But we needed to go through this as slow as we can. Okay, we don't have a lot of time, but we don't want to break your guys' minds through this. Just don't try to think ahead, because what happened next is very important. Nivara, Peter, there were 8 of us. We came from another world, from another reality. We were members of the Institute of Planar Research and Exploration. We were an elite team of scientists and explorers sent to explore the realities beyond our own with this impossible ship, but something went wrong. We were pursued by a destructive force beyond measure or comprehension. So when we came to this world, the 8 of us, we made the relics to try to hide the light that they contain from the hunger that would consume us, but it was a mistake. We damned this world from the moment we brought the relics into it, and I didn't want to create them, but I was..." And she looks terribly grim, sad at this, and continuing. She says, We opened a door that we didn't know how to close. I was overruled, and so I took fixing our mistake into my own hands. I fed a record of our mission to the Dellen's Cap, and Drew and I, we made you all forget. I made the world forget what we did, and I hope to give myself an opportunity to collect the relics myself and put right what we made wrong. And I failed in my first attempt at collecting a relic that was in Wonderland, and I nearly died, nearly taking the truth of this world and the light and the hunger with me. And so I set out to form an organization that would aid me in my task, one with checks and balances and a distrust of magical artifacts built into its core tenets, but this too was unsuccessful. The hunters that I sent out, the thrall was too powerful for them to overcome, so I needed help, but the only ones I could trust with helping me collect the relics were the only people immune to their thrall, the people who made them, you guys. And the Dellen's Cap, so often as it has, provided a solution, a child. I was able to feed the child selections from our mission log, providing an essential redundancy. You could drink from the mother and learn the existence of the relics and help me learn from them and destroy them, while the child could continue to hide the truth of their creation and the mission, and brought us to this world after our long voyage. So I found you, and I created this grand story of rogue wizards, exploding schools of magic, and evil liches to set you along the path to provide you inspiration. And you did so well, but with these, and she gestures towards the scales, with the light of creation reformed, it's apotheosis. I can build a barrier to keep the hunger at bay. I can build a home that all of us can be safe in together. And she looks right at you, Nivara. She says, except for Yorith. I'm so, and she says this name. You guys have heard it 100 times, you just don't know who it is yet, or why. Except for Yorith. I'm so sorry, Nivara. Jack, there was nothing I could do. And Nivara, you remember immediately all of this kind of deluge that's already been hitting you. This has been the heaviest part of it. You remember Yorith now, of course. I mean, how could you forget her? She was those memories you had in the dream of your autumn childhood, of you just playing in the leaves at the base of the tree. Remember, there were always do you remember when I told you about that?
Yeah, there were so it was me and my 3 sisters, and there was another one, wasn't there?
There was always another one that I specifically, every time I told you about it, I would tell you that there were 4. I would tell you that there were 5. Oh wait, there's only 4. Do you remember? Yeah. There was a blurred out face, and that was something that you couldn't quite perceive, some static. That was Yorith. It was your twin sister, and out here on the road with you, outcast but never alone. And Elsbeth says, so those were the 6 of us. It was me, Jack, Yorith, Nivara, Peter, Ketis, and of course our 7th, our Captain Drew. But when I redacted the logs to feed to the baby Dellen's Cap, I let you keep your names while eradicating any information pertaining to the mission, but for our captain, his life was the mission. He was the first I attempted, and I messed it up. His name was all he retained. I've kept him close ever since, my poor Drew, our brave captain. And of course there was our little stowaway friend, but we'll come to her later. And she kind of looks sad again. But she motions to her side and then as she was about to describe who the stowaway was, she looks to her side and kind of reacts with a start, like kind of is startled for a moment, as a silver dish falls to the ground, sending a bag of coins and 3 blue tokens bouncing down the steps of the dais. And there's Drew, and he's holding a flask that Jack surreptitiously tucked into his hand, and he's wiping some ichor away from the edges of his mouth. And he shakes his head and he says, "Elsbeth, what have you done?" And the command that Peter, that you noticed with that high perception, was he was commanding Drew to drink it. And he gave him that thing and then commanded him to drink it. And there it is. And the door behind you opens. The only door that leads into this chamber opens. And the last thing you see are Team Sweet Flips, Carrie and Faith, and some of the guards knocking in the door to the main dome, revealing to everyone inside the catastrophic scene outside. Nivara and Peter, you see Ketis back in the flesh, and the director gasps when she sees him alive, not out of shock again, but out of happiness. But her relief, it quickly subsides and is replaced with the same horror that is now creeping over all of you. Nivara and Peter, for the first time, you are seeing those shadowy beings that assaulted Ketis earlier, and you recognize them too as the Hunger. But more importantly, you see the massive half-mile wide tendrils that are of just this living darkness of tar that are dripping out of the sky and colliding into the ground and burrowing to form these thick swirling pillars. And from those pillars, the Hunger's armies have begun to manifest, marching out towards to raise the world below. It's the end of the world again. And that's where we're going to end tonight's session.